Hello everyone, this is Mr. Minnick. This is yet another installment of Mr. Minnick's math modules. Today what I'd like to look at in this 5-minute video is negative exponents. Negative exponents. You say exponents. Some people say exponents, put the stress on the O. Anyway, negative exponents, the most important thing to realize about negative exponents is this. Negative exponents do not, they never have, they never will, they do not make numbers negative. Let me repeat that. Negative exponents do not make numbers negative. Let me say that one more time. Negative exponents do not make numbers negative. In exploring this, let's consider the number 2. If we exponentiate 2, in other words, raise it to some power, we could generate a table of values, x and what y is, or 2 to the x, okay? So if we think about x to the first power, or 2 to the first power, that of course is 2. And 2 to the power of 2 would be 2 squared, which is, I'm getting ahead of myself, it's 2 squared, which is 4. Okay, so that's 2 to the power of 2, which is 4. And 3 would be 2 cubed, which would be 8. This is called a doubling function, okay? And in another segment, we'll talk about exponential functions. But anyway, the point here is maybe you remember what happens if you raise a number to the 0th power. If you exponentiate a number that's not 0 to the power of 0, that equals the number 1. So if we follow that trend, that pattern, every time we decrease the exponent by one number in this doubling function, we're cutting numbers in half. 8 to 4 is half of 8, which is 4. Half of 4 is 2, and half of 2 is 1. So it stands to reason then when we go to the next term in this sequence, if we're going backward in this sequence, and we go to negative 1, we're going to cut that 1 that's right here in half. We're not going to make it negative, we're cutting it in half, which half of 1 is half. So the point here is 2 to the negative exponent, negative first exponent, is 1 over 2. Now what I neglected to tell you is this. There's really an exponent of 1 right there. So in a sense, a negative exponent inverts a number. A negative exponent, a negative exponent inverts. And in math, inverse has several meanings, but it inverts a number. Okay? You've probably seen a certain button on your graphing calculator at some point in time, the inverse button, some call it. Okay? That x to the minus first button, that's the inverse button. Okay? So let's just see if we can take our calculator. Let me reset my calculator here. And let me take the number 2 and invert it. Well, it makes 0.5, and we all know, I hope, that 0.5 is a half. Okay? So in the general case, for some number x to the negative first power, we end up with 1 over x. Maybe the power is not 1. Maybe the power is unknown. In the general case where the power is unknown, but we do know that m is a natural number, x to the power negative m is 1 over x to the positive m. Okay, so let's look at one of those. So for instance, if we took the number 2 to the negative third power, that's 1 over 2 to the positive third power. Okay, so once you invert that number with the exponent, in a sense, the negative sign on that exponent goes away. Okay, so 2 to the exponent negative 3 is 0.125, which is 1 over 2 cubed, or 1/8. Okay, 1/8. One final word. I said I'd keep these to about 5 minutes. One final word. If you have a fraction, such as 2/3, and you exponentiate that to a negative power, what happens here is that it gets inverted. Now, if you have a fraction and you invert the fraction, the numerator becomes a denominator and the denominator becomes a numerator. So this is 3/2 to the positive first, or just 3 over 2. In this other case, it would be 3/2 the quantity squared. I said 3/2 the quantity squared, which would be 9/4. Okay, so let's just quickly look at those on the calculator. 2/3 the quantity inverted is 1.5, which is 3/2. And 2/3 the quantity to the negative second power is 2.25, which is 9/4. Okay, so this has been a math module on negative exponents. Remember, it's an inversion. It does not make the number negative. See you next time.